So, built back in 2008, the spectacular Algarve International Circuit. It is called the roller coaster. It has spectacular ups and downs, steep slopes, hard braking zones, a little bit of everything packed into an exciting 4.6 kilometre, 2.85 mile layout, 15 corners, 6 of them left, 9 of them right. Top speeds of just over 350 kilometres an hour. First sector, pretty tight, with downhill braking on into turn 1, a tight turn 3 where there was drama last year, of course, with Marc Marquez's tangle with Miguel Oliveira. Spectacular downhill section through turn 9 and 12, and then the long, tight finishing turn 15 through the final corner. Turn 1, turn 3 and turn 5, hard braking points present very good overtaking opportunities. You've got to manage that rear tyre coming through the high-speed final corner. Plenty of overtaking hotspots, as we mentioned, 1, 3 and 5, and turn 13 also to factor in. This was where Pecco Bagnaia set himself up for the dream double here 1 year ago on the inside of home crowd favourite Miguel Oliveira. Coming up next then in MotoGP. Can pole in Portimao propel Enea Bastianini to their second win in factory Ducati red? He ended Ducati's sprint winning streak in style, and now Maverick Vinales wants the dream double for Aprilia. Pecco Bagnaia is looking to bounce back after a sprint win slips through his grasp. And all in for the win. Is today the day Marc Marquez finds his way back to the top step of the podium? So 12 months ago here in Portimao, it was Pecco Bagnaia that kicked off 2023 with a dream double. But Ducati's golden winning streak in the Tissot Sprint was finally brought to an abrupt end. This key mistake by Pecco Bagnaia is comfortably leading, losing 3 seconds with the mistake down the hill into the first corner. Dropped Bagnaia back from first to fourth. This was a hard move Marc Marquez made on Jorge Martin to snatch his best ever Tissot Sprint result in second, a first Ducati podium for the 8-times world champion. But it was the Top Gun flying and riding high at the end of the 12-lap Tissot Sprint as he ended Ducati's 9-race sprint streak. And can it be Vinales, just like it was Pecco Bagnaia here 1 year ago, that can complete the victory double in Portimao? So good afternoon and welcome back to the gorgeous Algarve coastline that is nestled right near this magnificent Autodromo Internacional de Algarve. It is called the roller coaster because it is one of our most spectacular venues on our 21-round MotoGP World Championship campaign. You join us for the first time on European soil in this special 75th anniversary season. Always great to be in Portimao. Ahead of us, the 19th Portuguese Grand Prix. We first came to the Algarve back in 2020. A circuit universally loved and admired by fans and riders alike. And in just under 40 minutes time, it will be lights out for round 2 in this year's World Championship. 25 laps as Ducati go in search of an 11th successive Sunday victory. Pecco Bagnaia made a winning start to the defence of his championship in Qatar a couple of weeks ago. And he blew it yesterday when he was comfortably leading the Tissot Sprint. That means there's now no sprint podium in the last 7 for the reigning world champion. As it was all eyes on Maverick Vinales, who's bounced back from a real nasty bout of gastroenteritis to find his winning touch again, and for the first time that winning feeling back with the factory Aprilia team. Will Aprilia make it a double victory here today? There's an army of Ducatis that they'll have to deal with. Yesterday, of course, it was a pole position for Ducatis, and there Bastianini banishing some of the demons he had from Portimao last year, when, of course, his championship challenge was over pretty much before it all began, when he suffered a fractured right shoulder blade after a tangle with Luca Marini in the sprint. A sprint that, unfortunately, over 12 laps, ended in rather disappointing fashion for the Beast, accidentally deactivating his whole shot device as he came to the grid. Big wheelies off the line, dropped him right out of contention very early on. This was straight away Bastianini realising he was in a bit of a pickle here. Couldn't get the whole shot device engaged, and he had to start from pole position with a lot of torque and about 300 horsepower being put through that rear tyre. And unfortunately, it meant that Bastianini was swallowed up off the line. Look at him sitting up there briefly as he tried to engage the device, and then he just could not manage the front wheel. Look, it came up once, it came up 2 or 3 times on that fast sweep down the hill to the first corner. And from that point onwards, he never really featured in the battle for the podium. He took the checker flag in 6th place, did the Beast. Just his 2nd pole position of his MotoGP career here in Portimao yesterday. Live pictures then in front of a healthy crowd who are here really to support one rider, and that's Miguel Oliveira, the undisputed home crowd hero on the Trackhouse racing machine. It's Matt Burton, Lewis Sotheby, as always, in the commentary box with you. Simon Crafar down in pit lane. This was on Friday afternoon, and this was a first Ducati crash in a race weekend for Marc Marquez. There has been 2 that have followed, including one this morning in the 10-minute warm-up session at turn 3. This was a scare that Marquez had just before the halfway point of the sprint here yesterday. That allowed Maverick Viñales to snatch 2nd place away from him. And then with the mistake coming late on from Bagnaia, Viñales hit the front, and it was a lead he was not to relinquish. And that was some last lap aggression, some of the famed old Marquez aggression, picking up Martin down the hill into turn 5. Just the 4th Tissot sprint podium for the 31-year-old Spaniard, and his best ever Saturday result, that 2nd place behind Maverick Viñales.
He's experienced the rough and the smooth at turn 5 this weekend, hasn't he? Marc Marquez, the perhaps arguably biggest moment of his weekend came at the final corner, turn 15, qualifying 2 on Saturday morning, when he had a big high-speed crash coming through that long right-hander where he engaged the rear ride height device a little earlier than he perhaps ought to, and that sent him on a one-way ticket to the gravel trap. Relieved to see that he was okay. Relieved to see that Maverick Viñales is fighting fit to a certain extent, although you saw that face mask he was still wearing, so he's still clearly feeling far from 100% as he chases a dream double here in Portimao.
Yeah, Maverick Viñales, that was Ducati's first defeat since the Catalan Grand Prix. Ended on 9 successive sprint wins for the Bologna factory. The 7th rider in the new sprint era to take the checkered flag first was Maverick Viñales. Can he win his first Grand Prix since Qatar 2021? Simon, down to you for some early thoughts and observations.
Yeah, it was just something you were talking about, Mark, and this morning he, I believe, confirmed something I've suspected during this weekend, that the first 2 crashes he had, both of them, are connected to the ride height device, whether his use of it, but also I'm sure you can fine-tune them. So the fine-tuning of that ride height device when, because you can book it, and it's how soon after or when it does activate after that. So he said this morning to Jack Appleyard on the parade thing, on the trailer around the lap, he said this morning warm-up was the first real crash he's had. The other 2 were something else, and that I went bang, that's what I was waiting for. I believe it's something to do with the ride height devices. The other 2 anyway. I've meanwhile collared Massimo Merigali. Massimo, it's your real name, isn't it? It's the same, yeah. But always enjoy catching up in this quiet moment to give you a moment to explain what's going on at Yamaha. Can you give us your thoughts? I saw Fabio out on the hard front like he said he would do, even in the cold this morning warm-up. Did it work?
Yeah, he did. And yesterday, unfortunately, We were not ready to start the race with the hard because we had not the time to test it, and we were afraid to do the test, to do the race with the hard in front without any test. So this morning he wanted to do it because he felt that during the sprint race the medium was a bit softer, and he was looking for more support. Yeah, this morning he was feeling quite well with the front. He used used rear tire, but he was overall satisfied about the pace and the drop of the tire. Yeah, because going back to yesterday's sprint race, we were most likely not able to use the soft. So then Alex chose the soft, but Fabio was quite comfortable with the medium, knowing that the performance at the beginning were less, but the tire was more consistent, and yeah, he was quite satisfied about that choice. So this morning he just wanted to put kilometer on the tires, and yeah, as I said before, he was quite happy about the behavior of the bike.
Something I'm sure all the listeners would like to know is where you see yourself overall. Like, you know, we're all trying to guess when the Japanese will be back, you know, back on top, or at least, you know, top 5, then top 3. When your ideas on that evolution?
Yeah, I would like to be optimistic, but on the other hand, I always try to be always realistic, and I really hope that by the end of the season we will be able to get closer. And then next year, I think we should start in a different way. You know, now we have parameters that we didn't have in the past. So now we almost know where the competitors are and where we are. And we know that we have a lot of work in front of us. We started. We are going to push as much as we can to try to introduce new items as soon as possible, and if things will go right, we might use some new parts in Barcelona or later in Mugello. We got already some good numbers, so we are. I'm personally really looking forward to start using the first aero updates. Because, yeah, as I said, the wind tunnel gave us some numbers, but now the truth will be from the rider on track. So we will evaluate with Carl first, and then with our rider most likely after Le Mans.
Maya, always a pleasure to speak with you. Best of luck this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Yamaha boss Maya Meregali. Yes, actually, tomorrow, weather permitting, Yamaha are staying in Portimao for what will be the first of several very important post-race test sessions. They try to find some performance with the Wise with RM1. Fabio Quartararo yesterday in the sprint, 9th place, the last point scoring finish. It was only a 6 points finish in 21 Tissot sprints. Just gives you an indication of the fall from grace that Quartararo and Yamaha are currently experiencing. But as Maya said, they're doing everything they possibly can to dig their way out of the hole.
Speaking of sprints and speaking of Fabios, we just saw Fabio Di Gianantonio disappearing there into the Pertamina Enduro VR46 box. Sprints haven't certainly been kind to him so far this year. He's crashed out of both of them, which leave him down in the championship standings. Only the 9 points he picked up on the Sunday night in Qatar, which find him 10th in the championship. As we look at his teammate Marco Bezzecchi, it's not been the easiest weekend so far for Repsol Honda, but can they turn their fortunes around in the race? Their team manager Alberto Puig is with Simon.
Yes, Alberto, I just had a catch up with Yamaha, and I really wanted to do the same with Honda to basically get an idea from you, the man, you know, the man on the spot, about where you believe you are at the moment. For example, from the outside, I see your riders are really positive. But you know, all of them, that they're on a mission to help Honda, and it's much better than the end of last year, their attitude. But I would love to hear what it's like inside the team.
Well, we are in a process of development, clear, and we believe we are making progress. at the same time, we believe the other guys also made some progress. So we didn't catch up as much as we expected for now. But the only thing that we know is that we are on a mission. Our intention is clear. We said it last year, and okay, it's not being easy, but we are putting a lot of resources. We are having a lot of manpower that is adding to the project. And yeah, I mean, the riders, even though they are not 100% satisfied still with the performance, at least I think they can see that we are trying our best effort. So yeah, not there yet, clearly, because when you see the grid, you can understand. But yeah, it's a process. Of course, we wish to be much more in front at this time, but things are the way they are, and we can only keep on trying.
I can see how hard Honda are working from the volume of new parts, aero and chassis, everything, engine update, exhaust. I imagine also this weekend I spotted 3 new swing arms, one for each of your factory riders and one for Johann Zarco. I imagine working towards the rear grip contact on entry, exit that the riders speak about. I imagine also electronics you're working hard on?
Well, electronics, I think we are more or less, but yeah, we are trying to find, let's say, more rear contact, both entry and exit, and we are working on it, but we made some steps lately, but as I told you before, we need more, clearly. So this is all I can tell you. I mean, we are on a mission, and we have targets, and you know Honda also very well. I mean, we will not stop till we get there.
That was my next question. As targets, sort of out from the outside, journalists, people at home, all trying to guess when the giant Honda HRC will be back. Well, first top 5, then podium, then win. What are your thoughts on that time frame wise, roughly?
I mean, it's difficult to say. I don't have a magic ball.
Okay, hopes.
Hopes. I think that with the concessions and all this program we have, I think by, I don't know, maybe by the summertime we make some step. And let's hope that the second part of the season, after Misano, we test also there. We can see really, I mean, some bigger steps or some clear improvements. You know? So this is our hopes and something that it's reasonable to think. This is what I think and our expectations.
Alberto, thank you very much for your time. Good luck this afternoon.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Always good to hear as well from HRC boss Alberto Puig. Yeah, they are tough times, aren't they, for both Japanese brands, but they do have the advantage of the concessions, which hopefully will steer them back in the right direction and steer them back towards the top of the MotoGP World Championship. It's a long, long road back, though, it seems, at the moment for Honda. Just a quick reminder, if you're joining us for the first time this weekend, the 4 Hondas are all right at the very back of the grid. Of course, that quartet, Johann Zarco, Taka Nakagami, Luca Marini and Joan Mir. Marc Marquez then, he'll feel like he's got a bit of a score to settle with Portimao after what happened here last year. Of course, Super Saturday in the extreme, wasn't it? 2023 started so well for him. The pole position and the 3rd place in the inaugural Tissot sprint. We thought Marquez and Honda are going to be back as serious title contenders, but he went from hero to zero in the space of 24 hours. And he committed the cardinal sin in Portimao of all places of wiping out the last rider on earth that you want to be wiping out in Portimao, Miguel Oliveira, of course. And actually, that did cost Marc Marquez the next 3 Grand Prix. He suffered a career-threatening right thumb injury. It is now 882 days and counting since Marc Marquez last stood on the top step of a Grand Prix podium on a Sunday afternoon. Is today the day that he can finally end that barren run? Giving himself a bit of work to do, though, Lewis, after the crash in qualifying yesterday, because he comes through from 8th on the grid, although in the sprint he proved that it can be done.
Yeah, he's going to need a first lap similar to what he produced yesterday to bring himself into victory contention, and as mentioned in Warren this morning, I think that was largely the reason why he was so annoyed after that crash in qualifying, because he knew he was quick, he knew he was in contention to potentially be on the front 2 rows of the grid. grid. I think he was probably thinking front row was on for the 93. In the end, it was the middle of the third row, either side of him, Pedro Acosta and Fabio Quartararo. So it is certainly a heavyweight and high-profile third row of the grid. Acosta, Marquez and Quartararo. That is going to be a third row well worth watching when this race gets underway in 25 minutes time. These are the tyre options brought by Michelin. Of course, 2 rear specifications brought and the 3 front tyre specifications, the soft front and the medium rear. Expect many to go for the medium rear option in this Grand Prix. All riders except 2 here last year raced the medium rear. Jorge Martin, who didn't exactly enjoy life on the soft rear yesterday, has pretty much already told us that the medium rear will be his choice this afternoon.
Yeah, some chatter gremlins again for Jorge Martin on the soft option in the 12-lap sprint. Frustrated that he wasn't able to fight for yet another sprint victory. It is, though, 10 podiums in a row in the sprint for Jorge Martin. Still second in the World Championship. Of course, it's very, very early days in the season, but it's already bubbling up to a spicy early battle, that's for sure, because there are just 10 points coming into this 25-lap Tito Grand Prix of Portugal between the top 4. Bagnaia moved on to 37 points yesterday, 2 clear of Martin. Brad Binder had a difficult Saturday right here, actually. That turn 13, he lost the front on the factory KTM and crashed out of contention in the sprint. His hopes of a good result on Saturday was certainly not helped by a crash late on in Q2. But Binder said, keep an eye on me, I'm going to be in the game, coming from 10th on the grid today. Still third in the rankings, a couple of points clear of Marc Marquez.
And Paco Bagnaia said on Friday, watched for the KTMs. He pinpointed then when I asked him who his main competition was likely to be this weekend. So, like Marc Marquez, Brad Binder frustrated to be further down the grid than he probably feels he belongs. Top KTM on the grid is Jack Miller. KTM's on rows 2, 3 and 4 coming into this Grand Prix. Pedro Acosta once again impressing us yesterday from the third row of the grid. Went backwards initially on the first lap and then showed incredible pace to bring himself back into play for a potential top 6. He narrowly missed out by finishing in 7th place, the second fastest lap in the sprint, and who knows, had he got off the line, where might he have finished?
Judging by the sound of the roars and the claps and the cheers from the main grandstand, Miguel Oliveira has arrived on the grid. He certainly has. There he is, the Trackhouse Racing rider. Such a shame it was during the pandemic era when we came here in 2020 that we were behind closed doors when Miguel Oliveira wrote his name in the history books. Portugal's first ever Grand Prix winner. It's a long shot for him to repeat that success day. Certainly, though, not lacking support, is he? Pecco Bagnaia then made a winning start to the Grand Prix season in Qatar 2 weeks ago. He's got great race potential here today with Vanea Bastianini going from pole position. There are high expectations inside that Ducati Lenovo team camp for their 2 riders. Let's get some pre-race thoughts from the boss, Davide Tardozzi, who's with Simon.
Yeah, it's a tradition. Catch up with Davide, hear about his riders. First of all, the whatever it was, misjudgment, with fuel load into turn 1 and, for Pecco, kind of blowing the sprint race, but he looked so damn fast that everyone will be worried about him today. Your thoughts on that with the different rear tyre, different fuel load? Also about Enea, the engagement of the front device, apparently it was down and then it popped up before the start. I believe he can get a much better result, but how good do you think?
Yeah, I hope so, but both riders makes small mistakes that compromise the race, but I think that today too it will be at least 6 riders that can fight for the podium, so our riders will be part of the group, so we'll see, because it's a different, as you said, it's a completely different race, 25 laps with a different rear tire that has to be managed. We'll see. But anyway, we are more worried about the front than the rear. We'll see, because I think that some guys will push at the beginning, and it's not so sure that they will have a good front tire, good grip on front in the last couple of laps.
Okay. Thank you, Davide.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Davide Tardozzi. Yeah, will this be a sort of a tyre preservation race towards the back end of it? Ducati Lenovo then, with maybe double podium hopes with Enea Bastianini going from pole position. Very busy grid there down on the Algarve International Circuit as we look at Pedro Acosta. What a performance, what a debut it was from him in Qatar 2 weeks ago. The youngest rider in Premier Class history to set the fastest lap on debut. It was a cavalier charge, wasn't it, through the field to fourth place. Yes, we were all getting carried away. We knew he was going to run into time management problems. The drop did come, and he found himself still inside the top 10, but he set the second fastest lap of the sprint yesterday, so he's very rapid around this Portimao track as well. Nobody quicker though yesterday in the Tito sprint than Maverick Vinales, finally a victor for the Nuwali factory. Aleix Espargaro's had good speed as well this weekend. Let's get some thoughts from the boss, Paolo Bonora, who joins Simon.
He does, and if anyone's going to know, you're going to know, Paolo. I could not believe the speed, firstly through the last corner of Maverick yesterday, but also in the last stages of the race when I thought he might fade. No way, he stepped it up. It was even other riders saying, wow. Today, yeah, like we've just been discussing with Davide Tardozzi, the different fuel load, different tyres, longer race. What do you expect from Maverick today?
Yes, you are fully right, Simon. The last in particular, the last two corners for Maverick was something special. He likes so much that kind of corner, in particular in this circuit. So he taken advantage yesterday from his speed, and he can keep the gap from the others. Today will be quite more difficult because the tire specification is much is more hard, so the behavior of the bike is a little bit different, but we have seen during the FP1, FP2 that he can manage this difference, in particular in the last part of the race. Regarding Aleix, he's not his best circuit. He's suffering a little bit too much, in particular with the rear grip, but as usual, he will put all his effort on during this race.
Thank you, and best of luck.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Paolo Bonora. This is a special sight, isn't it, as the parachutists are prepared to drop in on the roller coaster here at the Algarve International Circuit. This is precision, isn't it? What about this? Look at that. He's going to plonk. They're going to drop smack bang in the middle of the circuit. That is absolutely brilliant. He absolutely nailed it, didn't they? Brilliant. That's what we were in the commentary box wondering what the smoke flares were all about, and now we realise exactly what they are. That is what you call MotoGP inch-like precision. Brilliant way to get ourselves fired up and ready for the atmosphere here in Portimao. There he is, the special one. Great, isn't it, to see Jose Mourinho, who's got a rather extensive trophy cabinet for his brilliant managerial career in football, of course. Chelsea, Real Madrid,
Inter Milan,
yeah,
Roma,
I mean,
Manchester United,
yeah, Porto, you name it, and he has done it.
If he hasn't won it, it's not worth winning.
And it's just fantastic to see somebody of Jose Mourinho's fame here this weekend. Absolutely brilliant. He's going to wave the checkered flag as well at the end of the 25-lap Tito Grand Prix. Mixed fortunes, wasn't it, in many respects yesterday for the factory KTM team, as the Portuguese flag is about to be dropped on the grid here by the aerial display team. Brilliant scenes. Yeah, Brad Binder looks strong with his race pace, but unfortunately crashing out early in the sprint. Jack Miller fighting for the podium and taking the checkered flag in 5th spot. Is there plenty more to come today? I'm sure there is from KTM. Let's get some thoughts of their boss, Francesco Guidotti.
Yes, Francesco, it's great to see, like we've been saying all weekend, Jack back where he should be, you know, and really curious to see what he can do today in the longer race. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, but also on Brad. Really disappointing, the fall yesterday. Lucky it wasn't in the race with the big points, but he sounded confident in his debrief last night about managing the tyre to the end and having the speed. His race pace looks awesome. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, great race off yesterday, off Jack yesterday, and yeah, I mean, Brad made a little mistake, but it's a part of the game. The level is so high, you have to push anytime, any corner. So, yeah, I mean, it's not this this crash that will ruin our our vision, let's say. So yeah, we know that with a different combo of tires, hard front and medium rear instead of the soft rear of yesterday's sprint race, the balance of the bike a little bit changed, and also the feeling is changing. So they have to manage. Everybody, I think, have the same options, and yeah, 24 laps will be a long race. Let's see.
Just one more thing. For example, Marc Marquez said to me yesterday that he thinks it's harder to come through in the longer race because you have to look after the tyres. I got the opposite impression from Brad. Do you think he can come through in this long race, Brad Binder?
I don't know. It's difficult to say. Depend on how he will start, how he has to push at the very beginning, and if he need to risk to cook the tires at the beginning, then will be difficult to manage at the end of the race. So starting from the fourth row make everything a little bit more difficult and unpredictable.
Best of luck anyway.
Thank you.
There, thanks Simon, thanks to Francesco Guidotti. There is Marco Bezzecchi, who carries the back cam. Unfortunately for Marco, yesterday in the sprint he went backwards, missing the start. He said since he first came to MotoGP, he's always had problems with the Ducati clutch. He got big wheelie off the line, lost acceleration, and then in that short sprint over 12 laps, you just don't have any time to recover, do you? Fabio Quartararo then, a two-time winner here at the Portimao Grand Prix. He won the 2022 race here from 5th, from pole position back in 2021 after a pretty good fight with his current teammate Alex Rins, who was then of course a Suzuki rider. There is part of the spectacular and rugged Algarve coastline, home to this man Miguel Oliveira, who last year, worth noting, isn't it? He did lead both these. He was fighting with a podium in both the sprint and the Grand Prix, and did lead very early on here. Before we know what happened, we don't need to cover it off once again, do we? Portimao, then one of 4 circuits on the 2024 calendar, where Marc Marquez has not yet tasted victory. Will today be his time? Emilia Romagna Grand Prix at the Misano World Circuit. Marco Simoncelli back in 2021, the last time Marquez was on the tops of the podium on Sundays.
And I guess since then, today might be the day where he feels he's in with the best possible chance of ending that run. Of course, he was always fighting a losing battle last year on board that Honda, although he certainly gave it a good go and took a few sprint podiums. But today he feels he's not only got the speed, but also the machinery underneath him to give it a good crack this afternoon. As we mentioned earlier on, from 8th on the grid, he needs a good first lap. If he doesn't get himself up the order on that first lap, you feel he's going to be too far back to make his way all the way to the front.
There was Jack Miller. Strong ride by Jack yesterday. 5th place. He made the early running in that sprint. A couple of issues with the wind I think he encountered. Got a buffeting, lifted his front wheel up going over turn 8 when he was in 4th, and then so it just affected his foot as well. He actually clicked 5th and lost all kinds of driver momentum. Of course, yesterday, a lot of people, quite rightly, perhaps in some respects well, will feel that Maverick Vinales did create history and be the first rider to win for 3 different manufacturers in the modern MotoGP era. But of course, I think you're going to have to really say he has to win a Grand Prix, doesn't he, before we can really properly say that's an accolade on his CV. But it is worth noting he has now won a Grand Prix or a sprint for Yamaha, for Suzuki, and now Aprilia.
He might only have to wait another hour to aim that way for a full-length victory. I guess the physical toll will be one element of it for Maverick Vinales, although, of course, he's not feeling anywhere near as sick as he did earlier on in the weekend. Did not sleep a wink on Thursday night here, so by the time he arrived on Friday, he was by no means feeling anything like his best. So the adrenaline will certainly kick in for Maverick Vinales, and of course the incentive of knowing that he's potentially got race-winning equipment underneath him, having won the sprint yesterday. Vinales will certainly hope to stick around at the front. Of course, he was only half a second or so behind last year's winner, Pecco Bagnaia. Vinales, I guess, one of his big challenges will be getting off the line. Notoriously, the KTMs and the Ducatis quicker off the line than the Aprilia. In the zone. Full focus, ready to fight, all in, as he always is. Marc Marquez getting set for this 25-lap Tissot Grand Prix of Portugal. It's going to be explosive to watch him come through from that 3rd row of the grid, which also features Pedro Acosta and this man, Fabio Quartararo, as I just mentioned. We saw him on screens, a double winner here previously in Portimao.
That would have been a little bit of a confidence boost yesterday for Quartararo with that sprint point in 9th place. And of course, he did run the medium rear tyre in the sprint, so he's got a lot of good information and data on that medium rear tyres. We are going to take a very short break very soon, because we'll pause now for the Portuguese national anthem.
Dos teus igrejos avós, que há de guiar-te à vitória. As armas, sobre a terra, sobre o mar. As armas, pela pátria lutar, contra os canhões marchar.
Enough to give you goosebumps, isn't it? As Oreia performs the Portuguese national anthem, flags waving in the grandstands from thousands upon thousands of Portuguese fans cheering on their hero, Miguel Oliveira, this afternoon as the fly past continues this spectacular pre-race ceremony. So high hopes for Marc Marquez this afternoon after his second in the sprint yesterday. He goes from 8th on the grid. Alex Marquez goes from 12th. Let's get some pre-race thoughts from Michele Massini on the grid with Simon.
Yes, Michele, really like to hear your thoughts. Excellent job from Marc yesterday. A couple of bumps in the road, meaning falls in practice qualifying and also morning warm-up. Your thoughts going into this longer race?
Yeah, but despite the crash in the warm-up, the feeling is there, the feeling is good. For sure, the Sunday race is a completely different management compared to the sprint, but I would say that the main target is to repeat the result of the Qatar main race. So we see, but so we have a good condition.
And Alex Marquez.
Yeah, with Alex, we hope that he will make a really good start today, because yesterday the start was a bit bad, and so it's not easy to recover a race when the beginning is like this, but I think that he can stay comfortable in the top 10 today.
Okay, thank you and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks to Michele Massini. It was a tough one yesterday for Alex Marquez, having topped Q1, found himself qualifying in 12th place. It was actually his worst finish, and the first time he's finished outside the top 10 in a Tissot sprint, down in 13th place, trying to make amends for his error yesterday. Did the punishment really fit the crime, as Brad Binder made a small mistake going into that tight first gear turn 13. Down the road he went, though. No points on offer yesterday for Binder after his stunning start to 2024 with podiums in both the sprint and the Grand Prix in Qatar. It's going to get very, very noisy very, very quickly as the Portuguese Air Force fly over this Portimao circuit. We'll go down to pit lane again, though, and hear from Michelin Motorsport manager Piero Taramasso. The Top Gun Maverick Vinales, of course, having a good look at the Top Guns in the air. Simon, to hand to you.
Yes, Piero, a few different opinions from riders at briefings last night, and I'd really like your opinion, meaning everyone's saying they can't push as hard as in the sprint, obviously with the longer race distance, but a few riders like Brad Binder saying like rear tyre life's actually pretty good. Others saying front is their worry right at the end of the race. Your thoughts?
No, I think that today they can push from the beginning to the end. The rear medium is very consistent tire. We used it also last year, and the tire consumption at the end of the race was still very good, so the consumption is not a problem. The performance also, the lap time is very, very consistent. Jorge, other riders with all the tire, 20 and more laps, did very, very fast lap time. And also the front, we stay consistent until then, because today with the more fuel, you know, the lap time will be a little bit slower compared to the sprint, so you will save a little bit the tire. So for me, it will be consistent race.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Michelin Motorsport manager Piero Taramasso. as the riders get themselves ready for this 25-lap Grand Prix of Portugal. Fabio Di Giannantonio, a strong 7th place in the Qatar Grand Prix for Digia, but crashes in both of the sprints so far. Just in the background there you can see team boss Pablo Nieto looking rather apprehensive. As Di Giannantonio, he gets to launch away from the middle of the 5th row in 14th place. There is Thriller Miller getting himself pumped up and ready. As always, we'll see the traditional chest thumping from Miller very, very shortly. And what celebration will Maverick Vinales potentially have for us? We've had Batman in Lombok, we've had King Kong here yesterday after his sprint win. When I saw those green flares